Thanks very much, Lord Mayor. More and more people live in the city, and the pressures of development do affect all our communities. Developers provide CIL, Community Infrastructure Levy, to help compensate for these pressures on the population. A small amount, usually 15%, is given to the area committees for choosing small local projects that get requested. But the rest is held centrally for strategic purposes by the Mayor. Since he cancelled the arena project in the centre, up to £12.5 million has been unallocated in the growth and regeneration budget for that arena project, despite other ideas that might be penciled in but are unconfirmed. The money is still available. My amendment is a helpful proposal to put this capital to use right away to help our communities who are all under pressure. It has to be spent strategically on physical projects dealing with development pressures. And what's more of a pressure on communities across the city, where ever more housing and congestion impacts on all our neighbourhoods, than the pressures we've seen these last 11 months on our worn out parks and open spaces and our rundown streets with inadequate space for safe getting around. What's been revealed is the desperate need for new capital investment. In parks, this is needed to improve accessibility, reconfigure paths and circulation routes, add vital facilities and equipment, space for nature, and enable concessions or events that will need power and water. And this could generate vital revenue afterwards. I gather a decades-long capital strategy is being drawn up for this, but we need it sooner. And in residential areas, we need investment to make our streets more livable, dealing with rat running, road safety, accessibility, dangerous parking, and to make streets more pedestrian and cycle friendly so that the city is healthy and age and child friendly. Groups are active across the city who are keen to work up these schemes with the council. And when we support them with real resources, in some areas, they'll be able to pull in more funds to multiply these new projects and these new budgets. And in others, the capital projects can be prioritised to be funded centrally. So I'm suggesting half the capital helps with each of these strategic purposes, open spaces and local streets. I've suggested a 4-year spend. I'm just summing up. I've suggested a 4-year spend so the strategic CIL can be replenished for the other spending goals that do exist. But while it remains unallocated, I can't think of better use than to help our communities under pressure of city development and the need for strategic recovery from the last year. Residents have been promised more livable neighbourhoods. Let's fund them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to call upon Councillor Hants to second the amendment. Thank you.
Yeah, seconding, reserving my remarks.
Thank you. I would now like to call upon Councillor Beach to speak on behalf of the Labour Group. You have 3 minutes, Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. The Labour Group will not support this amendment to strategic CIL today. And I just want to spend a bit of time to talk us through why that is. Strategic CIL is used across the city to support capital investment. And in 2017, we made the decision to support areas of the city who are experiencing great change as the city meets its housing and employment challenges. This was a purposeful, unapologetic decision to invest in areas which includes transport network, parks and green spaces, which are coming under increasing pressure by growing resident populations, one which Councillor Comley and Fodor both seem to agree with in their speeches. Let's not forget where this money is created. It's created through city growth, which after all is not seen evenly across the city. I believe you can have the greatest impact when targeted place-based investment is made, supporting a new community to knit in with an existing community and creating great places where everybody can enjoy. And we're doing that already. 6.9 million supporting Bedminster, Southville and Windmill Hill, 24.5 million for Castle Park, St Jude's and Lawrence Hill. And just to turn to that centric accusation that came from Councillor Weston right at the beginning, I just want to talk through some of the other CIL investment in our communities, which are also growing. A new community hub for Lawrence Weston, Glencoyne Square in Southmead, investment into community facilities in Lockleys and Perry Court School in Hengrove. As noted by officers in the budget report, this amendment to reallocate strategic CIL threatens those planned investments in those communities from Lawrence Weston to Hengrove. This would be in favour of 2 pots of money, which there's no detailed or strategic case right now. Furthermore, between the Parks and Green Spaces work led by Councillor Craig and the local cycling and walking infrastructure funds led by Councillor Dudd, I believe both those needs are being catered for. Hopefully this recognises that this Labour administration is already investing heavily in both our valued green spaces and walking and cycling. Taking the tone of the amendment, we're already making this investment, but being purposeful to support those communities within or close to areas of growth and regen to create healthy green communities. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to call upon Councillor Weston to speak on behalf of the Conservative group. You have 3 minutes, Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my Lord Mayor. I realise Councillor Fodor won't appreciate this, but I actually commend him on a very well-delivered speech. But we're not going to support it. And there are several reasons for this. And I want to go into that. First of all, thank you to Labour speakers today. They've truly inspired me. One of the criticisms that I've got with the way this works, and if you look at the wording to this and look at the wording to our amendment later on, we both seek to use the same pot. It's the 12.5 unallocated. That's money where it's there. There's no business plan for any scheme. So we have absolutely no idea what's going on with these proposals. So it's not going to endanger Glencoyne or anywhere else, because actually that's taken care of. This is the unallocated spend. But apparently removing all of the money endangers those schemes, which I would understand. But taking a third of it endangers all of them as well. I think there's a bit of lazy wording there, because actually surely that's not the case, but it's used again later on. The danger at the moment, where the Greens are looking to spend this, is incredibly worthwhile, with one caveat, but incredibly worthwhile. But doing so does rob all the other schemes, as was mentioned, of their potential to come forward. So the Frome Gateway, Castle Park and all that would fall if this went. But the problem here, and I think it's a problem for the administration, there's so little detail with these schemes that you're proposing. Would the Frome Gateway cost $1 million? 2 million, 3 million, 4 million? I don't know. At the moment, it just seems to be a footnote on a piece of paper. There's no detail with it. The caveat I would also mention is when you talk about strategic transport, that actually needs, in some cases, to include car. Because actually, we have it in the north of the city where we have the Cribs Patchway New Neighbourhood. And we saw the proposals from the administration with the A4018 proposals, which were quite frankly ludicrous. But the suburbs do use cars to move around, and actually allowing greater traffic flow in those areas, allowing them to move more easily, is what those communities need to knit together. We don't all live in the city centre and can't all access first-rate public transport. So I'm afraid today we are against this because it seeks to damage schemes that are being worked up, but also in some regards, it actually ignores an important part of the transport mix as well. But I commend the speech, Councillor Fodor. I thought it was very well done.
Thank you very much. I'd now like to call upon Councillor Negus to speak on behalf of the Liberal Democrat group. You have 3 minutes, Councillor. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. So money needs to be gainfully used in this city. So money more switched from the kill-off arena to parks and resolving transport issues certainly seems worthwhile, particularly with Labour's proposals to build over some of our treasured parks. The electioneering from the executive member earlier about how the Liberal Democrats restored our parks was simply wrong, I should say. I recommend she gets one of the Labour scriptwriting team to seek out the facts and note the praise we received for the efforts that we took at that stage. Labour and the Conservative members who almost unanimously rejected taking the arena out of Bristol, which was the Mayor's contrived decision despite their concerns, will surely want to see better use of this wasted money. The Lib Dem amendment to cut the ludicrously padded Mayor's office with scriptwriters was lost, so these options are welcomed as they offer the only real chance of being smart about getting in front of some of the problems and creating real change in these situations. It's not like pacing down money, it's actually trying to get ahead of the problems, use initiative and try and make fundamental changes to the way this city operates. And that's what we tried to do, and maybe this money could do it as well. We'd like it used not as a general new pot, but creatively to generate further beneficial change. This council should be more active in getting in front of issues and engaging not just with the usual suspects, but with its regular tax-paying citizens. Moving this money into the useful zone is welcomed. I hope it will then be open to new ideas from our people, but sadly this council has a record of bearing down on that sort of initiative. I have concerns about the community impact levy in principle, and certainly over recent announcement in the last few months. The whole process and the way it can be controlled by a council and by government. That said, this might be the last year this amendment could be brought, and we will support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings to an end the debate. Councillor Hants, as seconder of the amendment, would you like to respond to the amendment before us before we vote? You have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A few comments. It's again, I'm sure Mark Weston shares my horror at the thought there are areas of agreement between us and the Conservatives, but there we go. It's been a funny old day in many ways. Clearly, however, we don't share his opinions on the benefits of increased traffic flow for cars. Now, there's plenty of evidence to show that the more walkable and livable streets you have, the better the community cohesion is in whatever area of the city you live in. But I thank you for your partial praise, Mark. Thank you very much. And again, we are grateful for the support of the Lib Dems. There's a couple of comments I would make, however, which have cropped up a few times. These funds appear to be unallocated. The fact that there appear to be plans for it, they might not be. It's not really acceptable that there's this lack of clarity over such a large amount of money. I mean, it's hard to imagine, and I hope you'll forgive me for saying it, but it's hard to imagine a more diligent councillor than Martin. And if he can't work out what this money's for, then I'm damned if anybody else can, quite frankly. So there are issues there. And I don't doubt that the intentions that Councillor Beach outlined are good intentions, and I'm sure they will improve the city. The fact is it's obscure to anybody outside of the inner workings of the administration to find out what's going on here, which is why this has arisen, I think. Because thus far, for a lot of people, especially in my area of the city, the administration's promises around more livable streets, around walking and cycling infrastructure, so far it's been all motherhood and apple pie, I have to say. There's been very little concrete proposals. We have tried and tried, especially my area. I'm sure other areas have experienced similar issues since October, November last year to try and get some kind of concrete plan or promise out of the administration, and we failed to do so. So hence, in some desperation, this is why we're proposing an alternative source of funding in the absence of any clear direction elsewhere. So thanks for the support, guys. I would urge you to vote for this. We all approve of. We all know that parks and our streets need sorting out. So let's try and pull behind this one. But thanks for your comments.
Thank you. I'd now like to call upon the Cabinet Member, Councillor Beach. Would you like to respond prior to moving to the vote? You have 3 minutes, Councillor.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. I mean, I don't know if there's much more to say really than what we've been through. I think, to be honest with you, it's an unusual prospect to be having this debate in a budget meeting, but I would just like to qualify that in my time on the Cabinet, I have had very, very little contact from any of the speakers today about how the use of strategic CIL is actually spent. And so, Martin, we know each other pretty well, and I've got a huge amount of respect for you, and I'd be really welcome the continuation of that conversation. In terms of how that money is best spent to transform these areas of growth and regen, the reason why I've not got a detailed business plan for every one of those locations is because it's being led by the community in those areas. It's not for me today to say what investment is needed in St Jude's to transform the Froome Gateway project and those areas of Easton, St Jude's and St Paul's. It's not for me to say that. And so I'm not going to sort of apologise, I guess, because that money is not completely ironed out. But what I can tell you is that area is changing. We all know that. We see that ourselves, and we know that change is coming because we're planning for our growth. So I'll leave it there, Lord Mayor. My door is always open, well, assuming I keep my job in for the next election. And so please do give me a call or speak to me about this issue. I'm always happy to talk it through.
Thank you. I would now like to move to the vote on the Green Capital Amendment. The amendment summary will be